things that it takes for this year's team to win football games, how we play all three phases. Now it's about consistency and, showing up at US Bank Stadium against a really good team on Sunday and performing the way we need to win.
The Enough Said program. My name is Dan Barreiro, Justin Gaard with me, and of course Lori Fisher will get the whole program started as she always does in her inimitable style. Hi, Lori.
Hi, guys. Friday night, so exciting. The Vikings are coming off a road division win over the Detroit Lions. Next up, they play the Ravens this Sunday here at home at noon on Fox 9. Baltimore, a 2-game winning streak for them, favored to win. Can the Vikings move the ball, though, against a healthy opponent, Dan?
Well, first of all, the soundbite you played to open the show, KOC sounded down in that, didn't you think? Maybe he's. It's
a lot of work getting this football team back to 500.
Yeah, he just seemed. I expected a perkier version of him coming off their best victory of the season. I think they had the game that we talked about last week. They kind of had to have, and to that extent, I do believe they. I don't know if I'd say they saved their season. But I would say if they'd have lost that game, I think the season was over. So maybe that defines saving your season.
They gave their season a chance. They gave themselves a chance to save it.
The window of opportunity now exists, and now your reward is you got to play a team, Baltimore Ravens, with a quarterback who I think has a record of 24-3 against NFC opponents in his career, and is very good, and a team that is very dangerous as well. The key will be probably this week the same as it was last week. Maybe it's the key almost every week, Justin. We got devoured at the line of scrimmage against the Chargers, and we returned the favor against the Detroit Lions team that I don't think was ready for the Vikings being able to do that kind of good physical work in the trenches, as the cliche suggests.
So that was the closest personnel-wise Vikings team that we thought they were going to have going back to August, right? In terms of guys that were healthy, Blake Cashman, Andrew Van Ginkel, a couple of the offensive linemen. So it was nice to see, but I'll talk about the guy that we're seeing right now, the guy that just threw that pass. I know you like to refer to him as 9.
Not number 9, just 9.
Just 9, his alter ego that we saw there in Detroit. There's nothing like hope in sports. And even at halftime, I don't know how you felt, Dan, but at halftime, I just felt like the mood where I was, everybody was upbeat. Everybody had been uplifted. And the Vikings hadn't even won the game. They had just played well, and the young quarterback had played pretty well, right? Sure. There's nothing like hope. And you said it, the Vikings may not have saved their season, but they at least appear to have given themselves a chance. And the team they're playing Sunday, yes, Lamar Jackson has that gaudy record. He hasn't played a ton this season. They're up against it too, right, the Ravens? So
they're even more desperate. Actually.
Right, so both teams are extremely desperate. Now, the Vikings maybe less so because the Packers continue to open the door in the division by losing and tying some of the bad teams, some of the worst teams in the NFL. So there's a pathway for the Vikings here. But what I got out of Sunday was you at least feel hopeful, right, about what J.J. McCarthy might represent. Because up until now, first of all, we hadn't seen him. And then he hadn't really played very well in the time that he did play this season. So his performance, especially in that first half when they established themselves and how that game was going to be played, I just thought it gave everybody a lift.
I'd rather he'd have waited a few more weeks before referring to himself in the third person or as a number, because I'm not sure he's quite reached legendary status yet. Here's the key to what you're saying regarding the hope. He threw a lot of bad passes. Mm-hmm. He made a number of mistakes in the middle of that game.
30.
He threw some good ones. Carson Wentz also threw some good ones and some bad ones. But the difference is, you figure at this point, Carson Wentz is who he is.
Right.
So what you're projecting in the hope is, he can with KOC, they can smooth out the rough edges in his game as he gets a little bit more experienced. That's the beauty of a young quarterback, is you make the assumption that is not always true, but that you can at least say, yeah, he's young. He's got a chance to get through those mistakes, get better in the middle of the game than, let's say, what Carson Wentz was. So that's all to the positive.
Yep.
But there's no rest for the weary, because this is a very tough opponent, but at least back at home. But as you mentioned, a team with I think a sub 500 record favored over the Vikings at home.
Don't forget to run the ball, by the way. They forgot to run the ball in the second quarter, and what happened? JJ all of a sudden was sped up. Yep. It was flying all over the place. They needed to get to halftime
at the end of the game,
almost.
They also forgot, and it almost opened the door for the Lions to steal the game.
That's a whole other ridiculous
And congratulations to Carson and his wife. They had their 4th daughter this week.
Oh, is that right? I didn't realize that. Congratulations.
4 girls.
How quickly we've already moved on from Carson Wentz. JJ, it was the baby of the century. We were blessing the baby. Can you believe he's actually going to play? Carson, we're like, Oh, they have. Okay, cool. That's great. Well, congrats. That's great.
Yeah.
Well, did it get in the way of his preparation?
Another girl that they all have H names. It's cute.
Oh, okay.
His latest daughter's name is
Hannah.
Hunter.
Oh,
Ooh,
Cute.
Hunter.
I took a guess at it.
Hunter.
Hunter.
Interesting.
Oh, wait, I wrote this down. Hadley, Hudson, and Hayes. Pretty cute.
Very precious.
Well, it's hunting season. I don't know if you know that.
I do.
Not every guest is available because they're going hunting.
Thankfully, Anthony Edwards is back from a right hamstring injury. Unfortunately, the Timberwolves lost to the New York Knicks on Wednesday night, but Ant said he felt great, but the basketball gods had other intentions. The Wolves play the Utah Jazz for their first NBA Cup game at Target Center. Justin?
Yeah, I don't think the NBA gods are responsible for defensive effort. I don't know. I'm not the most religious man in the world, but I'm pretty sure you're responsible for your own defensive effort, and we saw it in the second half. What's crazy, Dan, is they led at halftime against New York. It was a ball game like midway through the third quarter, and then their defense just vanished again. And that's the thing that's bothered us basically since 2 years ago, right? The consistent defensive effort, the consistent defensive acumen. When Rudy's on the floor, their defense is better. It's not the lockdown D that it was a couple of years ago. The guy we're watching right now, Julius Randle, I think has actually been their most consistent player here. So I want to give him a pass because Ant did miss some of their bigger games, talking about the Laker game at home, the Denver game at home. He obviously missed 2 weeks. That's something that you don't necessarily plan for. He didn't even really play in the home opener against Indiana, which was a meat grinder game. But it's the same conversations, I feel like, coming out of the locker room that we've heard the last year, 2 years, maybe even 3 years going back, even before they got Rudy here. And it's not a young team, as much as we like to think. Anthony Edwards is young, but these guys have all been around now for a while. I think it's year 6 for Jaden, for Naz, for Anthony. We shouldn't be talking about these same things. And that's where I kind of worry long term is do they yet understand that? Because this isn't a great Knicks team. I know they were in the conference finals a year ago, but they gave no defensive resistance whatsoever.
Well, in the NBA, I think you got to be good at everything or great at something. In other words, if you can be top 10, top 11 offense and defense, you can be a factor.
Yep.
Or the other way is great in one of those categories. We're neither. We're not good at anything. We're certainly not great at anything. The numbers I have is defensive efficiency. We are 27th right now.
Not good.
Offensive efficiency, we're 12th. That's not a good combination. And I think the Knicks had 22 offensive rebounds.
That's effort.
Which is effort.
Yep.
I told you the Celtics coach basically in the preseason went to an edict where if you gave up an offensive rebound, the next time out, you were out of the game.
I like it.
If that had happened, if the Wolves had used that, their head coach had implemented that approach, it would have been like basically a merry-go-round. I mean, it would have been an endless array of players in or out because the rebounding thing is a significant issue. The Knicks are good at it, but the Wolves were terrible at it. And again, they're not a terrible team. We've seen them grow over the last few years, and they've got a little bit of equity. But it sort of feels like they're spinning their wheels right now, trying to even figure out who should be in the rotation and what the best mix of players are. And let's face it, there are two players, as you say, regarding age. Rudy is long in the tooth, and so is Mike Conley, who is already out of the starting lineup. So those things matter because both those players, when this thing has gone good, they've been important parts of this team getting to the Final Four.
Well, with Ant being out, the continuity piece does go away a little bit, obviously, and we'll see where that takes off now that he's presumably back and he'll play tonight against Utah and the rest of the way here. But continuity, as Chris Finch said, only matters at the beginning. Continuity is supposed to help you at the beginning where you shouldn't be answering all these questions or having all these questions. You should be able to hit the ground running, as that cliche goes. And I think that's why people are frustrated with it, because there's a lot of really good teams in the West, right? And we learn every single game matters when it comes to standings at the end of the season. So you can't be punting games just because you're not feeling great or the continuity's not there. And I think they're losing some of their advantage.
And I don't want to compare, it's unfair to compare them to Oklahoma City, because Oklahoma City is in another stratosphere, but they lost one game so far.
Right.
They just won a title, and they're showing nothing but more commitment to the bit and going after another title. And meanwhile, this looks like we're already patting ourselves on the back for 2 Final Four appearances.
The Wild snapped their losing streak, winning Saturday and then beating the Nashville Predators in kind of an odd way Tuesday night. But then lost Thursday night, as the Star Tribune, the lead sentence in the Star Tribune article this morning. Whenever the Wild had reason to celebrate, the Carolina Hurricanes crashed their party. Dan?
Yeah, and I got another one of those. Who was it who basically said
we did some good things?
We did some good things.
That's Brock Faber.
It's exactly who it was. And I think, in fact, Faber was the one who had the key turnover that led to the winning goal.
It's had a couple.
I just don't want to. I get the fact that the Wild were playing a better team, right? Than they had been playing. And so you feel, I guess, decent about the fact that you're competitive or you're in the game. But we, again, got to get past this. We were close, especially when a key turnover. I mean, that's what separates the good from the mediocre or the average. And speaking of, again, we're back on defense. Goals against, the Wild are 29th in the league. I don't want to put that all on the goaltender. I think he has been very up and down himself, for sure. But some of that has to do with the people around him. But that's just not going to work. You know, if you're not a team, especially that is blessed with endless lines of abundant talent, then you're back to you've got to be able to guard. You have to be able to defend better and more consistently to give yourself a chance, and the Wild have not come close to doing that so far.
I'm not sure we know what their identity as a team is. Like, you don't know what you can count on every single night. Some nights the scoring's there, some nights it's not. Some nights the goaltending's there, some nights it's not. Some nights they take care of the puck. Actually, most nights they don't, and that's why they've been in this spot. And the biggest problem they have is when you set up a patient, or you set up a string of patient seasons. Just wait, just wait, just wait. We've got to get to 25, 26. When you set that up as kind of the deadline, people are expecting maybe not greatness, but at least goodness, right? Or at least something resembling consistency. And now everybody's been patient for the llast 3 or 4 years since the Parise and Suter buyouts. And this is not the start you want to have in the season that everybody's been looking forward to. Your players, certainly your owner, and I know your season ticket holders that have been hanging in with you through these first-round playoff exits, they were all pointing towards this season. So when you have that deadline and then you're not really meeting the moment, people, I think, are going to be exponentially more frustrated than they were. And I think that's what we're seeing now, because there's no aura right now. There's no vibe right now. Everything's just kind of meh. You don't really know what you're counting on on any given night. And that's why they're basically 3 points away from the bottom of the Western Conference right now.
The best case scenario would be continue to play some young players to find out whether they can help you and improve, and by the end of the year be players you can count on. But the problem is you may miss the playoffs if you take that approach. That's the catch-22 this entire franchise, I think, continues to be in.
Okay, coming up, we are going to look back at Election Day a few days ago and what happened in Minnesota and nationally, and then also kind of some of the effects of the government shutdown, and then Tom Brady cloning his dog.
That'll keep him here.
Yeah, for sure.
Here's my commitment to you as your next mayor. I will always show up. We are a large city, but a small community. Being involved matters. How we run our government matters. How we show up for people in every corner of our city matters.
Welcome back to Enough Said, a historic win in St. Paul's mayoral race. State Rep Kali Herr won against incumbent Melvin Carter. Minneapolis Mayor Jacob Frey also won his third term. And then nationally, Democrats swept key races, New York City mayoral race, governor races in New Jersey and in Virginia. And then California has voted yes to Proposition 50, allowing state legislatures to redistrict midterm elections, Dan.
Well, I'm more interested in the story nationally than I am locally, which may seem silly because local stuff obviously is important. But my assumption is that the winners of both mayoral races are both Democrat in the cities of Minneapolis and St. Paul.
They are, yeah.
Okay, so what we know is going on there is, all right, well, what kind of Democrat do you want? Right. Do you want a centrist or a relative centrist? Actually, Jacob Frey looks like Barry Goldwater righty. That's a bit of a dated reference, but it's an old Republican back in the 60s. Compared to the city council, although apparently even the city council is not going to be. They're not going to be able to veto quite as easily as before.
It got a little more moderate.
A little bit more moderate, yeah. Not
a modicum of moderate.
The national message I'm taking out of this thing, well, there's a couple. One is the Democrats should be really careful about celebrating that this is going to translate to a year from now or 3 years from now. The assumption, because if we know anything about the political climate we're in, it changes every 15 minutes.
Right.
That said, I do buy the notion that the message for the Democrats nationally, because it was a series of smashing successes, is affordability was the issue. I read a quote from an old political wonk named Joe Klein, who said that Trump isn't working the counter at McDonald's anymore, or he'd sense the public's annoyance with his denial of inflation. I think truer words have never been spoken. That piece of it, I think, is the most important message. And I would also say I would cling more to the centrist message that some of the winners, like including a couple of the gubernatorial states like in Virginia, they went with as being the playbook going forward, not the mayor of New York. The mayor of New York might have pulled it off there. I don't see that as being the way if you want to start winning. Give yourself a better chance to get back in the national election.
Well, you just look at how many votes the mayor of New York actually received.
Yes.
Like that's what we always throw out the word mandate, right? Like President Trump's victory was a mandate.
Right.
When it really wasn't, right? What happened on Tuesday is a mandate or a rebuke. It's really not. I liked what Karl Rove said, and we've said it a million times, it's time for both parties to recalibrate a little bit, right? Because I do honestly believe, and maybe I'm an idiot, most people can be reasonable about most things, right? I honestly do believe that.
Well, I thought that once, but I thought that pre-Trump. I know.
But we are seeing that a little bit more, though, because there are even a lot of Republicans now that are saying what we're doing here is not workable long term. I think what they're looking at is a future after Trump. And there will be one eventually, right? Whether or not he finds a way to run for a third term or not, there will be a life after Trump. And what's that world going to look like? Because he is like nothing we've ever seen before. We've talked about him for over 10 years now with that phrasing, right? It's something that we've never seen before. So I agree with what you said is like you take it, you take the victories, but also what do the victories represent? And what does that mean moving forward?
We even saw a little bit, one of the president's briefings the other day. He looked, by his standards, I mean, at one point, he was defiant, but other points, he seemed a little bit beaten to me, like some of this stuff was getting to him. Now, I don't know if that'll last. Who knows what he ends up doing as a result of it. But I think you saw, when it comes to the economic red meat issues, that's where you concentrate. And that's
about the money.
Great vulnerability of where we stand, whether the president or his people who are standing by him want to admit it or not.
Dan, I put that I voted sticker on that graphic just for you.
Oh, look at that.
That's for you.
That's
a nice touch.
I know you love those stickers so much. It never gets old.
Always do.
The college basketball season started on Monday for men and women. We know that there's investigations into illegal gambling in Division I basketball. A couple weeks ago, we talked about the major NBA scandal. And then starting on November 22nd, going back to the college students, student athletes can place bets on professional sports, Dan.
Well, I have to apologize to Lori first because she claimed that we had at least touched on this in the lightning round a few weeks ago, and I didn't even remember it. But apparently we did. I think it is worth a little bit more than lightning round treatment. And the way Lori laid it out is the persuasive reason why sanity needs to prevail among the people who run college sports, if that's even possible.
Right.
Because we have how many different investigations going on right now?
A lot.
NBA, Major League Baseball, there were a couple of them this summer. College sports as well. And to me, if those aren't the cautionary tales that say, hey, look, let's hire the best attorneys we can. So if this gets challenged, if we say, no, we're not going to let college kids who might be even more vulnerable than pro players bet on pro stuff and that be used against them by very, very, smart, in some cases, organized crime individuals, we're naive. We're not thinking clearly. So I'm hoping now that there was this sort of, I guess, pause in when that might be allowed to start, that somebody in authority at the NCAA will grow a backbone, which hasn't been much of one lately. But to me, this one is fraught with endless risk, some of which I'm not even sure we understand.
Well, I think the NBA scandal is what woke them up a little bit because this was basically all systems go until that, and then they said we're going to pause. I know Congress got involved as well. Yeah, I can't speak to everybody in college sports, but most of the people I talk to say we've been telling athletes for 50 years that they can't gamble and they can't do this, and now we're just going to say everything's fine, go ahead, smoke them if you got them. And you hit on the legality part of it being challenged. I think that's the biggest issue here is the NCAA is sick of being Minnesota sports since 1991 losing, right? Because anytime they get challenged on anything recently, they're basically like the Washington Generals against the Harlem Globetrotters. They've lost. That's why players are being paid right now. That's why there's the transfer portal. That's why there's NIL. That's why people have like 8 years of eligibility, even though they've been in college for 6, 7, 8 years.
Exactly.
They've lost every major case, so it's almost like they're preemptively cutting their losses and saying, we've spent billions of dollars trying to defend ourselves. Uncle. But on this one, most people, I think, understand why it's a ridiculous idea, especially now because college athletes are being paid. They are getting more money than maybe a 18, 19, 20-year-old is used to getting, and they might be more influenced by some of that stuff. So I get it. Free society, do what you want to do, all of that. But I do think there have to be rules for different companies, different organizations, different businesses, right? And that's what this would be.
And the concern is obviously a college player is already owes a bookie some money.
Correct.
And they say, hey, you know what? We'll let that one slide if in your game you just do a couple of things to maybe let the defensive lineman get past
right.
me.
Get your quarterback killed.
And that's why this is dangerous.
Welcome back to Enough Said. Lightning round. Former Vice President Dick Cheney passed away on Tuesday. He was 84. He served both terms under President George W. Bush. Dan.
Did I see, by the way, that the governor of the great state of Minnesota ordered that the flags be dropped to half-mast?
I believe saw that, yeah.
Huh.
Interesting, right?
Interesting. What are they from different parties?
They are, very much so.
I see. Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting.
You can have that.
So that's been done. I see. That's very magnanimous of him and probably the right thing to do, wouldn't you say?
I think it's pretty classy.
Justin,
it's pretty classy.
Traveling is going to get even more frustrating. I know you fly out a lot,
yes.
being that you cover the Gophers and
this
stuff.
Will affect me.
Flights are being cut 10%. It's kind of a slow roll at 40 major airports, including MSP, due to the longest government shutdown in U.S. history. Air traffic controllers, TSA workers still not getting paid, Justin.
Well, that's who I feel bad for.
Yep.
The workers, right? The travelers, of course, there's going to be frustrations, there's going to be problems. Although, as we said on the radio, if you're going to be stuck longer than you want to be at any airport, MSP Airport's the one to do it, right? It's the best airport in the country.
I
basically think we should be saying thank you to the government for shutting down.
Why don't we do an Enough Said show
I would love to do
the
that.
airport?
Oh, actually,
I would love to do that.
Super fun.
But it's the workers that I feel bad for. So while you're melting down because your flight may or may not be canceled, please don't take it out on the workers. I know that's tough, but
great
please
advice.
Don't.
Purple Rain, the musical, opened up at the State Theater this week. It's going to eventually make its way to Broadway, but as we know, Prince was one of us, and the movie Purple Rain was based here. Dan, you went to the big opening night, which surprised me. I didn't think you were a big Prince fan, but you said I have it all wrong.
Well, I think you have. I think what I've occasionally said is I don't want to wallow in every aspect of the Prince story 24/7 forever. I've always appreciated his talent.
For sure.
And I had great curiosity. We had Bobby Z, but a couple of guests on in studio.
Morris Hayes.
Exactly, who were outstanding. They're involved in kind of the production. So
and what'd you think?
I thought the music was good. I thought they need, like a lot of people have said, some work regarding the dialogue. And fortunately, they have some time to do it. Apparently, there's already been a lot of tweaking.
Yeah.
Broadway's a tough place, man, to succeed. It ain't like the Midwest. We're too nice here.
And
exactly
finally,
right. Yeah, if this TV station was in New York, the reviews would be very, very different, I feel like.
We'd be.
From what I've gathered.
Tom Brady has cloned his dog. Junie is from a blood sample from Lua, a pit bull mix which died a few years ago. But we need to point out Brady is an investor in the company, and it does cost around $50,000, so don't get any bright ideas that you can do it right away, guys.
Well, you could finance that if you really wanted to, right?
That's a good point. You could do that. So
this went from him just musing about this to we actually got confirmation.
Yeah.
Is this the most Tom Brady thing ever? Of the things we know about Tom, besides being the greatest quarterback in history maybe and one of the best competitors of all time, he's a different dude.
Enough said.
And yet, while he played at least, he never referred to himself as 12.
No,
Isn't that
not
amazing?
Yet.
That's remarkable. Greatest quarterback probably in history. How many Super Bowls? 6, 7, 8?
7,
9?
I think.
Whatever it was.
6 with New England, 1 with Tampa Bay.
Who knew?